Alright, finally, chapter 28 of Empathy, Letting Go. After the insanity of the last chapter, I think we can all agree, this will perfectly close the book on it all. Alright, let's read. It seemed like an eternity before the deafening noise of the building collapsing ended, but when it finally did, the silence that followed in its wake was almost worse. Letting out a cough, Hiro moved to pick himself up, finding that he hadn't been pinned beneath tons of rubble like he had feared. A moment later, a light sprang into being, dazzling Hiro for a second before he managed to blink his eyes clear. Glancing around, Hiro saw that he and his friends were all laying in a small open space within the rubble, the debris held off of them by Baymax, who was illuminating their surroundings with a light emanating from his chest. As he glanced around, Hiro saw his friends were all beginning to stir, each of them dirty and sporting scrapes and bruises, but otherwise unhurt. "Is everyone unharmed?" Baymax questioned. "Yeah, I think so," Hiro replied as the others nodded in agreement. "Can you get us out of here?" "One moment," Baymax requested before he began standing up, the servos in his arms and legs spinning loudly as he did. After a moment of effort, Baymax managed to lift the rubble upwards, causing small chunks to break away and tumble to the ground. After another moment, Baymax managed to lift the rubble clear and toss it away, creating an opening to let the others crawl free. "Oh, sweet Jesus," Usobi gasped as he stood up and took a deep breath of fresh air. "I thought we were done for." "We almost were," Gogo stated as she looked up at where the ceiling had been, her gaze now met by the starry night sky. "I have to admit," Fred said as he stretched out on his back, "I was not expecting my first superhero outing to involve getting my ass handed to me by the combined nightmares of Edgar Rice Burroughs and H.P. Lovecraft." "What the hell were you doing?" Hiro demanded as he ran up and shoved Fred hard in the chest, knocking the young man over a piece of rubble and sending him tumbling to the ground. "I had him and you let him get away!" Fred blinked his eyes in surprise from his position on the ground before shaking his head clear and glaring at Hiro. "You had him?" Fred replied angrily as he scrambled back to his feet. "You were trying to kill him!" "Of course I was!" Hiro shouted back. "He murdered my brother! He's working with a psychotic alien to do God knows what!" "You crossed a line, Hiro," Wasabi said gravely. "What you tried to do is something none of us signed up for." "Speak for yourself," Honey hissed, drawing attention to herself as she looked out of the ruined building at the city beyond. "Honey," Fred said, a sad expression on his face. "Pamela, you don't mean that." "Of course I meant that!" Honey snapped as she whirled on Fred. That bastard killed the man I love! I'd love nothing more than to see him dead!" "So much you'd kill him yourself?" Gogo demanded incredulously as she moved towards Honey. "Do you know what that means?" "Of course I know what it means!" Honey spat as she glared at Gogo. "No, you don't!" Gogo shouted it back as she gripped Honey's arms. "Honey, I know you're hurting, but don't you dare stand there and act like you have any idea how I feel!" Honey screamed as she shoved Gogo hard, knocking the young woman to the ground. "You have no idea!" Gogo blinked up at Honey in surprise from her position on the ground, the other woman towering over her while glaring down. "Maybe you would if you actually opened up to someone!" Honey spat. "Maybe you'd understand if you weren't such a coward! That's enough!" Wasabi shouted heatedly as Gogo's face flushed with anger and embarrassment, stepping between the two women before they could come to blows. "This isn't helping!" "You're right. This is a waste of time," Hiro stated solemnly before turning towards the android. "Baymax, find Callahan!" Immediately, Baymax lifted his head slightly as his visor flashed green before it made a small beep of error. "My enhanced scanner has been damaged," Baymax reported, causing Hiro to growl in frustration. "Fine," Hiro seethed as he crawled up onto Baymax's back. "Wings!" Baymax's wings snapped open in response. As he settled in near Baymax's shoulders, Hiro turned his attention towards Honey. "You coming?" Hiro inquired. "Huh?" Honey questioned in confusion. "You're the only one here who understands what needs to be done," Hiro explained, his eyes boring into Honey's. So do you want to help me find him or not? Honey seemed to hesitate for a moment, uncertainty flashing across her features, only to be replaced by cold resolve. Nodding her head, Honey walked up to Baymax's side, stepping up as the robot lowered his hand to her and boosted her up onto his shoulder. Wait, where are you guys going? Fred questioned. To finish this, Hiro said simply before turning his gaze skyward. Thrusters! With that, Baymax launched himself into the night sky, leaving a stunned Wasabi, Fred, and Gogo in their wake. Great job, Hiro. You're just leaving everyone in the island. Great friend you are. Great leader. Great. A few minutes later, the door to Hiro's garage lifted up, allowing him, Baymax, and Honey to enter wordlessly. Stopping near the center of the garage, Baymax watched as Hiro walked over to one of the computers and booted it up, tossing his helmet onto the table beside it. Get his helmet for me! Hiro ordered more than requested as he typed a few commands into the computer after removing his gloves. After taking off her helmet and placing it to the side, Honey turned her attention towards Baymax, who bent down obligingly. Reaching up, Honey removed the helmet with a quick twist before handing it to Hiro, who plugged a wire into a port inside the helmet and went back to typing in commands. Your blood pressures are elevated, Baymax commented as he glanced between Hiro and Honey. You both appear to be distressed. We're fine! No, you're not fine. Hiro snapped as he unplugged the helmet and picked it up before turning towards Baymax, placing the helmet back on the robot's head and snapping it back into place. There. Is it working? Baymax paused as he lifted his head and glanced around for a moment. My sensor is operational, Baymax reported. Good, Hiro replied as he pushed on the panel that contained Baymax's data chips. Then let's get... Hiro trailed off as the panel failed to open at his touch. What? He asked in agitated confusion as he repeatedly pushed on the panel which failed to open each time. Are you going to remove my healthcare chip? Baymax inquired. Yes! Hiro snarled, glaring up at Baymax as he continued to try and open the panel. Open! My purpose is to heal the sick and injured, Baymax stated as Hiro tried to force the panel open while Honey watched with an increasingly anxious expression. Baymax, open your data access port, Hiro demanded. Do you want me to terminate Professor Callahan? Baymax questioned. Just open! Hiro ordered as he began pounding on Baymax's chest. Will terminating Professor Callahan improve your emotional state? Baymax pressed. Yes! No! I don't know! Hiro stated as he began pounding on Baymax's chest with both hands in frustration. Hiro! A new voice suddenly shouted, catching everyone's attention. Turning towards the source, Hiro found Riley standing in the garage doorway, looking at him in confusion. Oh, yeah. I think that's what Riley meant when she said she was going to try and help Hiro. Now it looks like she's going to try and help Honey. I just hope that goes well. Well, I better get back home. The wind is getting especially chilly, and me and Lola have been out for much longer than we needed to. So, once we get back, we'll continue. Don't worry. Okay, everyone. It's time for us to continue the story. This chapter, basically. Riley has just arrived at the garage to see Hiro, Honey, and Baymax. Can she help them? I believe that our answer is a definite big fat yes. Now, let's go. Why are you trying to beat up Baymax? Riley asked. Riley? Hiro questioned in return, his confusion quickly giving way to hostility. What do you care? What are you even doing here? I felt your emotions after you left, Riley explained hesitantly, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear as she spoke. I was worried. What happened? Where is everyone else? We left them behind, Hiro explained as he went back to trying to open the panel in Baymax's chest. They were slowing us down. I have a bad feeling about this, Samus whispered. Slowing you down? Riley questioned as she stepped into the garage, her brow furrowing in confusion. Slowing you down from doing what? Hiro intends to use me to terminate Professor Callahan, Baymax explained. Oh, okay, that seems... Fear began to say before he cut himself off. What? Wait, what? Riley asked as dozens of thoughts ran through her mind at once. Terminate? Professor Callahan? Professor Callahan is dead! He's not, Riley, Honey explained, her tone cold. He's yokai. He started the fire so he could steal Hiro's microbots and fake his death. He's the reason that Tadashi is dead. Wow, Discus commented in surprise. Plot twist. What? Riley questioned, more confused than she had been before. Why would he do that? Hiro began to say before he cut himself off with a shake of his head. Look, it doesn't matter. We need to stop him. Stop? Riley questioned as she narrowed her eyes at Hiro. Or terminate. It's the same thing, Hiro mumbled as he looked away from Riley. They're not the same thing at all, Hiro, Riley pressed. He killed my brother, Riley! Hiro snapped, whirling back towards the girl and glaring at her. He murdered Tadashi! Did he? Riley questioned, her voice filled with quiet intensity. Excuse me? Honey hissed, the anger that washed off of her catching Riley off guard for a split second before she managed to steel herself against it. Come on, Riley, keep going! You can do this! Why would Professor Callahan want to kill Tadashi? Riley questioned. You said it yourself. He set the fire to fake his own death. He couldn't have intended for Tadashi to run into the building after him. It doesn't make any of it right, and he still deserves to be brought to justice, but it doesn't make him a murderer. I can't believe I'm hearing this! Hiro roared as he stepped towards Riley. My brother is dead because of him! He deserves to die! And then what, Hiro? Riley snapped back, her anger boiling over. Then you get to be a murderer too? Will you feel better then? Hiro began to say, the question throwing him off. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you won't feel better, Riley pushed. How would you know that? Hiro demanded. Because I can feel it in you, Riley replied as she took an accusatory finger and poked Hiro in the chest. It's right there, wrapping itself around your heart and squeezing! What are you talking about? Hiro asked in confusion. There's a thing inside you, Hiro, Riley explained, looking into the boy's eyes as she spoke. An emotion made up of all your hate, fear, and sorrow. And this whole revenge thing, it's feeding it. I could see it growing when you talked about killing Professor Callahan. Hiro began to say before shaking his head and glaring at Riley. Look, I don't have time for your emotional crap. I have work to do. As Hiro turned away from her, Riley bit her lip and scrunched her eyes closed, fighting against the tears forming in them. Ugh, this isn't working, Sadness groaned in frustration. There has to be a way to reach him, Joy stated. Have we considered putting our fist through his stupid face? Anger suggested. Oh, thanks, that's helpful, Disgust replied with so much sarcasm that Riley could practically hear the emotion rolling her eyes. I wish I could show you what I feel, Riley whispered. As the words left Riley's mouth, an idea suddenly formed in her head. Maybe I can, she muttered as she reopened her eyes. Yeah, Joy commented. That could work. Oh, I hate doing this, Fear whined. It makes me feel all existential. What are you... Hiro began to say as he turned back to face Riley. only to find that the girl was ignoring him, choosing instead to sit on his garage floor in the lotus position with her eyes closed and her head slightly bowed, her breath coming out in slow, steady beats. "Riley?" Hiro questioned as he quirked an eyebrow at the girl, not noticing the strange sense of calm that had fallen over him. "Riley, what are you doing?" Reaching down, Hiro attempted to shake Riley's shoulder to try and force her to respond. Before he could touch her, though, Riley's hand suddenly lashed out and grabbed hold of Hiro's outstretched arm, her fingers locking hard onto the limb. As Hiro began to instinctively pull away, he felt the sense of calm suddenly intensify, leaving him with no other choice but to slowly sink to the floor and close his eyes. "Riley's unlocked a new power-up. Riley, please do us all a favor and give Hiro some much-needed therapy." Hiro reopened his eyes a moment later and found himself somewhere completely different. Instead of laying on the floor of his garage, Hiro was now standing in what appeared to be a vast white void. Nothing could be seen in the void, and no sound could be heard. Hiro's mind told him that he should be more startled by the sudden change, but all he felt was the omnipresent sense of calm. That, and the sensation of someone holding his hand. Glancing to his side, Hiro found Riley standing next to him, her eyes closed and her fingers entwined with his. "Riley?" he questioned with groggy confusion. "Where are we?" "I don't really know," Riley replied with a shrug of her shoulders, not opening her eyes as she spoke, her voice calm, almost serene. "I don't think it's anywhere, really. It's not real. Just a place inside our heads." "How did we get here?" Hiro inquired. "I brought us here," Riley answered. "How did you do that?" Hiro asked as he quirked an eyebrow at the girl. "It's something I learned to do after the fire," Riley explained. "It let me get rid of all the negative emotions that I had bottled up inside of me." "And you can bring other people here?" Hiro pondered. "That was a guess," Riley admitted with a shrug. "What do you mean?" Hiro questioned in confusion. "Riley literally just said it out loud to you!" "I wasn't sure I would be able to do this," Riley explained, turning her head towards Hiro even though her eyes remained closed. "I think I can only pull this off with you." "Why only with me?" Hiro inquired. "Because we share a connection," Riley elaborated. "A connection?" Hiro asked. "What kind of connection?" "A bond," Riley stated. "I can sense your emotions better than anyone. I feel them even when you're miles away. I think it happened when I first got my powers. When you knocked yourself out trying to wake me up." "Oh, I get it! All the way back when Riley's powers first awakened. Back when we saw the, hero-like emotions. Oh my goodness. What a callback. I didn't think that was going to get brought up." "Okay, I think I get it," Hiro replied. "But why bring me here?" "Because I want to save you," Riley explained. "Save me from what?" Hiro questioned. "Myself?" "Not exactly," Riley admitted, a note of concern in her voice. Suddenly, the sense of calm Hiro had been feeling up to that point vanished, replaced by a rush of terror, sorrow, and hate. Feeling something grab his feet, Hiro looked down, only to find that he was now standing in a shallow puddle of what looked like black sludge. As his eyes widened in surprise, Hiro felt himself start to sink into the sludge, the vicious fluid flowing up to cover his ankles. Letting out a scream of surprise and fear, Hiro moved to pull his feet out of the puddle, only to find that the substance clung to him like glue. As he struggled to pull himself free, Hiro ended up losing his balance and falling onto his hands and knees. "Hiro," Riley said as she held her hand out to the boy. "Let me help you." "Help me?" Hiro demanded angrily as he managed to pull one of his hands clear of the puddle and dragged himself towards its edge. "Now you want to help me? Last I checked, you were trying to stop me." "I'm trying to stop you from doing something you'll regret for the rest of your life, Hiro," Riley replied, her voice never raising. "How do you know?" Hiro snarled as he dragged himself further out of the sludge. "What do you know about taking revenge?" "I don't know anything about revenge," Riley answered. "But I've come to know a thing or two about emotions. I know you can't take your revenge without giving in to the emotions around you right now." The words gave Hiro pause, and he stopped struggling against the sludge, prompting it to surge upwards and begin slowly pulling him back in. "What if I want to do that?" Hiro questioned as the sludge crawled up to his neck. "What if I give in to it?" "Then it will consume you," Riley explained. "And you'll be alone." "Alone?" Hiro asked as the sludge crawled over his throat. "You need joy to have things like friendship and love," Riley stated. "There are a lot of emotions in there, but joy isn't one of them." The statement seemed to shock Hiro, seemingly freezing him in place as he continued to sink into the sludge. The look of surprise was a brief one, though, quickly replaced by another expression of anger. "Fine!" Hiro growled as he began to squirm against the sludge's hold on him. "I'll just—" "Here, take my hand," Riley offered as she reached out for Hiro. "No!" Hiro snapped. "I can do it myself!" "You don't have to, Hiro," Riley insisted as the boy sunk deeper into the sludge. "Your friends can help you. I can help you." "I don't need your help!" Hiro argued as he continued to fight through the sludge even as he sunk deeper into it. "Then why are you drowning?" Riley questioned simply. A look of realization struck Hiro as he continued sinking into the sludge. "Thank you, Riley! That is exactly what I was asking you to do. And thank you, Hiro, for finally waking up and realizing what a jerk you were becoming, man!" "I'm pretty sure we had this conversation already, Hiro," Riley said, smiling and reaching her hand out to him while her eyes remained closed. "You don't have to do this alone." Hiro hesitated for a moment as he looked uncertainly at Riley's offered hand, before he steeled his features. Grunting in effort, Hiro pulled his arm against the grip of the sludge, his arms slowly pulling free of its embrace. With a shout of effort, Hiro managed to yank his arm free and reached out to Riley, who grabbed it. As soon as she had a grip on his hand, Riley began pulling, but she only managed to move him an inch or two. "I don't—" Hiro paused as he let out a grunt of effort while trying to remove himself from the sludge. "I don't think you're strong enough." "But I'm not by myself," Riley explained. "Think of all your friends and family, Hiro. Think of all the people that care about you." "What?" Hiro asked in confusion as the sludge began climbing up his arm. "They can't help now!" "Of course they can," Riley replied. "Your friends and family give you strength. That's why you're better with them than without them." But they're not here," Hiro argued. "But they are," Riley stated with a smile. "Just picture them, Hiro." As Hiro continued to struggle against the grasping sludge, he closed his eyes and tried to focus on the people that mattered most to him. His friends. His family. Suddenly, he felt a stronger pull in his arm. Opening his eyes, Hiro found that Riley was no longer alone in the struggle to pull him out of the sludge. A group of people now stood with Riley, each of them working to pull Hiro out of the sludge. Along with her was Tip, Honey, Wasabi, Gogo, and Fred. Baymax and O were there as well, along with his aunt and... "Tadashi," Hiro whispered, his eyes going wide as he looked up into his brother's smiling face. "No, Tadashi is dead." "That's true," Riley agreed with a nod. "But that doesn't mean he's gone. You still have all the memories, all the emotions you have associated with your brother. Those will never die. Not if you don't let them." Hiro slowly turned his gaze towards Riley, his eyes wide. As his eyes settled on Riley's smiling face, her eyes closed in meditative concentration. His eyes narrowing in focus, Hiro pulled on his other arm, trying to force it free of the sludge. Hiro struggled for a few moments, growling through gritted teeth as he did. After a moment, Hiro pulled his arm free with another shout, Riley automatically reaching out and taking it as well, along with the images of all his friends and family. Even as everyone worked together to pull him free, however, the sludge held fast. I can't pull free!" Hiro cried. "It's because you have to let go, Hiro," Riley stated in return. "I can see that now." "Let go?" Hiro questioned in confusion. "What do you mean? I thought you just said—" "No, not like that," Riley interrupted him. "You have to let go of all the negative feelings. All the sorrow and hate you feel because of Tadashi's death." I can't," Hiro said as he looked away from Riley. "Look at it! It's too much!" "You can do it," Riley reassured him. "You just have to let me help you." "How?" Hiro questioned as he slowly lifted his head to look at Riley again. "Just focus on all your friends and family," Riley explained. "I can help you use their strength to get rid of the negative emotions just like I did before." "How do I do it?" Hiro asked as he began sinking deeper into the sludge. "Just focus on their strengths," Riley explained. "Think about your aunt's love, your brother's compassion, Honey's optimism, Fred's enthusiasm, Wasabi's friendliness, Gogo's determination, Tip's stubbornness." "And what about you?" Hiro questioned as he managed to pull himself slightly further out of the sludge, drawing closer to Riley as he did. "Me?" Riley asked, a small smile growing on her face as she pulled Hiro slightly closer as well. "There's all sorts of emotions he can pull from me." "Like what?" Hiro questioned as he leaned in closer, the sludge slowly falling from his back. "Like how it felt on that night when we first met," Riley replied, her voice dropping down to a whisper. "What I was feeling when you stood up for me in the jail. Or that day you threw me a surprise birthday party. Or when we were showing off your microbots." "What if that's not enough?" Hiro questioned as his face drew closer to Riley's. At that, Riley's eyes finally opened, her gaze piercing into his. "Is what I think is gonna happen about to happen?" "I guess we could always try this," Riley replied with a smirk and a shrug. What? What this we could try?" Then she kissed him. Are you... Oh my goodness! Woo! Oh, that is so good! That is so adorable! Oh my goodness! I can't believe the therapy session would turn into the sludge and the images and the thing and the they just freaking kissed! Oh my goodness! It is so adorable! As the two sat with their lips pressed to each other's and their eyes closed, everything went quiet in their minds and their hearts. They had become so oblivious that they even failed to notice as the sludge that had been dragging Hiro down fell away from his body before it faded away. After a moment, the two pulled apart, their eyes slowly opening to reveal that they were kneeling in front of each other in Hiro's garage, their hands clasped tightly together. "Wow!" Joy said, breaking the silence inside Riley's mind. "First true love's kiss! Joy No other reaction can top that. Wow, Hiro whispered. My feelings exactly, Riley replied with a giggle. Hiro chuckled at that before his smile faded. Riley, he said before he paused inside. Riley, I'm so sorry for everything. I was a gigantic jerk? Riley suggested with a quirked eyebrow. Yeah, I guess it sums it up pretty well, Hiro replied with a chuckle as he ran a hand through his hair. What you did for me, I can't tell you how thankful I am. It feels like you lifted a huge weight off my shoulders. It's because I pretty much did, Riley replied with a shrug. Those negative emotions were weighing you down emotionally. Let me tell you, moving them was a hell of a workout, Anger commented with a grunt. Well, thanks for getting rid of them, Hiro stated with a smile. It was my pleasure, Riley replied before her expression turned concerned. You don't still want to kill Professor Callahan, do you? Hiro looked into Riley's eyes for a moment, almost as if his mind was having trouble processing what she had said. Then, a moment later, shame spread across Hiro's features as he ran a hand through his hair. God, Hiro whispered. I can't believe I even thought of doing that. What would my aunt think? What would Tadashi think? What would he think? Honey spoke up, catching Hiro and Riley's attentions, her tone cold. He'd think you're letting his killer get away with murder! Uh-oh, Sandus mumbled. Turning to where Honey was standing near Baymax, Riley found the young woman glaring at her, tears brimming in her eyes and her hands clenched into fists. Oh, crud. We forgot about one. This is not going to be good on my voice. If you have headphones, turn the volume down, guys. Probably should have said that earlier. I'll leave it in the description. Honey, Riley said hesitantly as she stood up, Hiro rising to her feet behind her. I know you're upset about— Don't! Honey snarled, causing Riley to flinch back from her in surprise. Don't you dare try to use your powers on me! Honey, I just want to help you. Riley tried to plead with Honey as she began to hesitantly approach the young woman. Help me? Ha! Honey questioned before letting out a harsh bark of laughter. You want to brainwash me! You want to make me forget my feelings for Tadashi! Want me to forget him! I just watched you do it to his own brother! Hey! Anger snapped. What? Riley asked, aghast, looking quickly between Honey and Hiro. I would never do something like that! Didn't you? Honey snapped as she waved a hand at Hiro. What do you call removing all of the negative emotions he was feeling about his brother's death? Taking away his desire to see justice for his murder! Wait a second, Hiro spoke up. Riley didn't take any of that away. Callahan needs to be punished for what he's done and whatever he plans to do. But punishing him doesn't mean killing him. Riley showed me that vengeance isn't the same as justice. You only think that because she messed with your mind, Honey growled. No, Hiro argued. I think that because it's true. What do you think Tadashi would— Tadashi is dead! Honey screamed, tears running hot down her cheeks, leaving the others in shocked silence. The utter sorrow coming off the young woman making Riley's whole body shake. Guys, I'm really sorry if that was a bit too loud, but I was just getting into the moment there. Tadashi is here, Baymax suddenly spoke up, catching everyone's attention. Turning towards Baymax, the group found the robot glancing between them. Wait, what? Disgust questioned. Baymax, Riley began to say, hesitantly. Baymax, what do you mean? Tadashi is here, Baymax repeated before the screen on his chest sprung to life, showing a pixelated image that quickly cleared to depict Tadashi standing in his lab, facing the camera while holding a small sign that read, Tadashi Hamada's Robotics Project Test, Number 1. This is Tadashi Hamada, Tadashi announced over the video, and this is the first test of my robotics project. Reaching forward, Tadashi pushed the button out of view of the camera. Hello, Baymax's voice suddenly came from over the recording, revealing that the robot had been serving as the camera as well. I am Baymax's voice suddenly trailed off, replaced by an electronic screeching that caused Tadashi to wince in pain. Stop! 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 Tadashi quickly shouted as he ran over to Baymax and pushed a button, suddenly cutting out the feed and starting another one, which depicted Tadashi dressed in different clothes while the sign now read Test Number 7. The 7th test of my robotics project, Tadashi stated as he pushed the unseen button again, causing Baymax's arms to start flailing around and slapping at the young man. A small smile tugged at Riley's lips as she heard anger snort in amusement. Wait! Stop! Stop! Tadashi shouted as he fought against Baymax before the feed cut out again and a third one started, revealing an exhausted-looking Tadashi, his sign now reading Test Number 33. Tadashi Hamada again, and this is the 33rd test of my robotics project, Tadashi announced before something off-screen suddenly sparked and the lights in the room suddenly died. A moment later, Tadashi suddenly reappeared, illuminated by the small flashlight he was now holding. He looked Baymax over for a few moments before sighing. I'm not giving up on you, Tadashi whispered as he looked directly into the camera. You don't understand this yet, but people need you, so let's get back to work. Glancing away from the screen, Riley saw that Honey was watching the video intently. As the video changed for a third time, Honey let out a little gasp and covered her mouth with her hands, which drew Riley's attention back to the screen. This is Tadashi Hamada, and this is, An exhausted-looking pause to glance at the screen, the sign in his hand. 84th test. Tadashi, 84 tests. You were a frickin' legend! You were a frickin' legend! Why were you taken away from this world so soon? Tadashi sighed and rubbed the back of his neck with an expression. What do you say, big guy? Tadashi pressed remote please and pushed the off-screen button. Hello, the android's voice greeted from the video feed. I am Baymax, your personal healthcare companion. Healthcare companion. There was a moment of silence as Tadashi stared at the camera in dumb shock, his mind trying to process what he had just heard. As his brain began to catch up, a beaming smile spread across Tadashi's face. It works! It works! He shouted in triumph as he began to dance around the room. This is amazing! As Tadashi continued to dance about in celebration, a polite knock came from the door leading into the lab a moment before it opened, and Honey stuck her head in. Riley blinked in surprise at this development and glanced at Honey again, noticing the young woman's eyes had begun to fill with tears again. She's seeing it all for the first time. She's realizing how hard Tadashi had worked to make a peacekeeping robot. And she's starting to feel guilt on how she'd almost used him as a killing machine. Tadashi? Honey said as she stepped into the room, smiling in bemusement at the young man. What's going on? Honey! Tadashi exclaimed happily as he turned to her, grabbed her hand, and pulled her in front of Baymax. I got my robotics project working! That's wonderful! Honey beamed as she bounced up and down giddily. I'm sorry to interrupt, you must be so excited! I am. Tadashi confirmed with a nod before an idea came to him. And you actually have perfect timing. Placing his hands on her shoulders, Tadashi gently positioned Honey so she was standing directly in front of Baymax. I want you to have the honor of being the first person he scans, Tadashi explained with a smile. Me? Honey questioned in surprise before shaking her head. Oh no, Tadashi, I couldn't. This is your project. You should be the one to do it. Please, I insist, Tadashi replied, causing Honey to sigh and roll her eyes playfully. Oh, all right, Honey relented, giggling as Tadashi smiled at her before turning her attention towards Baymax. What do I need to do? Just stand there with your arms and legs spread, Tadashi instructed, We should try to make it easy on his first try. Nodding her head, Honey assumed the requested position. Okay, Baymax, Tadashi said as he turned his attention back towards Baymax. I need you to scan her. There was a pause as a whirring noise could be heard. The caffeine levels in your bloodstream are elevated, Baymax reported. I suggest cutting back on your caffeine intake so as not to develop a dependency. I should probably take his advice, Honey said with a giggle. There's just been so much work to do lately. I know, Tadashi agreed before looking at Baymax with a happy sigh. But man, has it been worth it. Oh, I'm so happy for you, Tadashi! Honey exclaimed as she quickly stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Tadashi, catching the young man off guard. Tadashi's face flushed red at the sudden contact, and he stood ramrod straight as he tried to figure out what to do. As he did, Honey's eyes suddenly shot open and she pulled away. Her face flushed as much as Tadashi's. Sorry, Honey apologized as she took a step back from Tadashi and adjusted her glasses. That was a little forward. It's fine, Tadashi replied as he quickly removed his hat and ran a hand through his hair before placing it back on his head. Don't worry about it. He did the same hand thing that Hiro does! This is like the first time I've seen him do it, and this is after... Oh my god! An awkward silence fell between the two of them for a moment. I should get going, Honey said quietly as she began moving towards the door. Pamela, wait up a second, Tadashi said, causing Honey to pause and look back at him. Yes? Honey questioned as she turned back to Tadashi. Are you doing anything later? Tadashi asked nervously. Doing anything? Honey inquired. I was going to work on my chemical engineering project, but that shouldn't take too long. Why do you ask? I was wondering... Tadashi paused and cleared his throat, his face turning red again. I was wondering if you wanted to hang out. Hang out? Honey asked in confusion. Like with the others? No, like... just you and me. Tadashi clarified, unable to look Honey in the eyes as he spoke. Like a date. Oh, Honey whispered after a shocked moment, her eyes going wide and her face turning bright red. Glancing at Honey again, Riley saw that the smile was spreading across the young woman's face, and a sense of growing joy was radiating off of her. I think it's working, Joy whispered, as if worried her own unsubstantial voice would break whatever spell Honey seemed to be under. Look, I understand if you'd rather not, Tadashi quickly said. We've been pretty close for a while now. You're one of my best friends. But I get it if you didn't want... Yes! Honey quickly said, cutting Tadashi off. Yes, I'd love to. Oh! Tadashi replied with a beaming grin. That's great! I'll see you around 5? Honey questioned as she bit her lip. That works for me, Tadashi agreed with a nod. See you then, Honey giggled as she stepped out of the room, giving Tadashi a small wave as she left. Yeah, Tadashi replied, returning the wave as she left. See you. As the door clicked shut behind Honey, a huge grin spread across Tadashi's features before he broke out into a little dance. Something that caused Honey to giggle as she watched the video. I am detecting elevated neurotransmitter levels, Baymax announced, bringing Tadashi's attention back to him. This indicates that you are happy. Happy? Tadashi questioned. Happy? That's an understatement, Baymax. This is turning out to be the best day of my life. Grinning, Tadashi approached Baymax and let out a happy sigh. Oh man, wait until I tell my brother about this, Tadashi said with a shake of his head. Wait until he gets a look at you. You're going to help so many people. Placing his hands on his hips, Tadashi grinned up at Baymax. Right now, though, I've got a date to get ready for, Tadashi stated with a nod. So for now, I am satisfied with my care. With that, the image froze on Tadashi's smiling face. Reaching out, Honey touched the image with her hand as Riley felt her anger and sorrow begin melting away, replaced by a warming sensation of joy and love. Tears streaming down her face, Honey took a step closer to Baymax and wrapped her arms around the robot, placing her face against the image of Tadashi. I love you, Tadashi. I love you, Tadashi. Honey whispered as her shoulders began to shake. In response, Baymax wrapped his arms around Honey while resting his cheek on the top of her head. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I almost lost myself there. That was so adorable. I freaking love this fanfic. I really do. Even if no one will pay attention to my videos about it in the near... Even if I can't get enough people to watch all the videos that do on it, it's still worth reading through this just for moments like these. There, Baymax said as he gently patted Honey on the back. It will be all right. Anger? Disgusted questioned with a chuckle. Are you crying? What? No! Anger hiccuped. There's just something in my eye! It's okay, Anger, Joy said gently. Your secret is safe with us. And it's safe with me. It's safe with me, okay? It's safe with me. Honey could only giggle and hug Baymax tighter as the image of Tadashi faded away. After another moment, Honey stepped away, prompting Baymax to release her. Thank you, Baymax, Honey said before she turned her attention towards Riley, and it looked like she was about to collapse into tears again. Oh, Riley, I'm so sorry. I should never have said those awful things. It's okay, Honey, Riley replied with a shrug and a smile. After all, I know how you feel. Riley could barely contain her laughter as she heard her emotions groan in her head. What? Joy questioned defensively. I thought it was funny. You would say something like that, Fargo. Gogo's voice suddenly came from the entrance to the garage. Looking towards it, they found Gogo, Fred, Wasabi, and Tip entering the garage. Oh, yeah, that's all. They're all here. That's good. Tip must have picked them up. But O's still with Smack and Yokai, Callahan, and Cray, and the Borg. But don't worry, guys. Our heroes are back together at last, and they're gonna save O and stop the evildoers. But first, I believe some reconciliations are... Guys, Hiro said as he ran a hand through his hair. I can't tell you how sorry I am for what happened. For what I did. For what we both did, Honey added as she stepped in front of Gogo. Yuri, those things I said... I can't believe Gogo cut Honey off by silently stepping forward and pulling the taller woman into a hug, which she tearfully reciprocated. I see that Fargo was able to reach you guys, Fred commented as he gave an approving nod towards Riley. It was more of a group effort, Riley replied as she smiled up at Baymax. Turning his attention towards her, Baymax studied Riley for a moment before he held his fist up to her. Grinning, Riley bumped her fist against Baymax's, prompting them to wiggle their fingers at one another and say, "Ba-la-la-la!" in unison, earning chuckles from the others. Guys, I honestly can't begin to tell you how much I literally feel like my heart is about to give off the same light and warmth as the sun from all this. Oh. I'm glad I chose to read fanfic stories like this. This is my profession. Semi-profession. I'm glad to have you guys back, Hiro stated with a smile. You know we've got your back, Wasabi said with a shrug. Just maybe don't abandon us on a spooky island next time. Okay, Wasabi, I know that it had to be said, but really, dude? You could have at least used a bit more tact. Oh, man. Hiro groaned as he ran a band through his messy hair. I'm so sorry. How did you... Hiro paused as his eyes fell on Tip, noticing as the girl arched an eyebrow at him. Tip, Hiro stated with a knowing smile. You went back to get them, didn't you? Called it first! I do what I can, Tip replied with a shrug and a smug grin. I'm still waiting on my apology, by the way. I'm sorry for what I said, Tip, Hiro replied with a smirk. We'd be lost without you. Don't I know it? Tip stated as she crossed her arms over her chest. It looks like 8 of the Big Hero 9 are finally back together. Jeez. Recording... I'm gonna say it at the end. Let's just continue and finish this off. It wasn't a complete loss, though, Fred replied with a shrug. Why is that? Riley questioned. We found this in the remains of the control room, Gogo said as she pulled out a red data chip and held it up for the others to see. And something tells me we're going to want to see what's on it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for those who read this chapter. I do apologize for the moment where Honey screamed Tadashi is dead. I thought I'd scream it too so that it feel a bit authentic. If you have headphones and turn them down, I really hope you understand. I'll try this time afterwards, this chapter, I'll try and tone down my voice, my volume levels. But 4 chapters I managed to record in a row today. 4 whole chapters! All the way from chapter 25 to 28. I'm not trying to brag, but even I didn't think I could pull that off. Anyway, guys, I think this is about time that I end the recording right here in preparation for the next chapter. We now have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 8 chapters of the story to go. And the final battle is upon us. So until then, I'm the Masked Ranger saying, have a great week and keep moving forward. Bye for now. See you soon or later. Hopefully it'll be soon.